Hey everybody, welcome to another Sessionable Saturdays. I'm your host, Avola, founder of Untapped. I'm super excited to chat with you on this Saturday. It is pretty dreary out where I am. Hopefully it's a lot brighter where you are, because we're going to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Lawson from Lawson's Liquid. And we're wearing the same shirt, Sean. We definitely got the right memo on the situation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Really pleased to be here, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, we're so excited to talk all things about Lawson Liquid, where you guys are located, in case you hadn't heard about them. But before we get on the good stuff about Lawson's Liquids and all the great beer, we got to drink a beer. That's what we got to do in these shows. So I'm actually drinking one of the newer things that you guys have, which is the Sip of Sunshine, which is a little Sip of Sunshine, which is the regular single IPA version of the beer. What are you drinking on your side, Sean?
Well, I figured it was only appropriate, since it's Sessionable Saturday, that I start with a
Yes.
Super Session number 4, and this is the newest one in our series of single hop IPAs at 4.8%. This one features Centennial hops, and it's the first time it's been in cans, and this is the first rollout of our new 16-ounce can format for this beer. It's always been in 12-ounce cans, so super excited to have 4 packs of 16-ounce cans of this beer, and we're keeping the 12-ouncers around in 12 packs also.
Right. So if you're out there right now, you have your beverage of choice, crack open that can. Make sure you check in on Untapped and use the venue Untapped at home. Let everyone know you're safe out there. And it's a great way to kind of keep track of all your stuff while drinking at home and being safe. So I'm excited. This is a relatively new beer from you guys, Sean. And if you're out there right now, make sure you check in. And cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. All right. Well, let's get right into it, Sean. I think that, one of the interesting things about your brewery being in the Northeast that I know a lot of things about what you guys have been brewing, but in case people out there are unfamiliar with your brewery, just give a little background on your history, how things got started, and where you guys are located up there in Vermont.
Yeah, sure, Greg. Well, we started out in Warren, Vermont, which is a little town in the Mad River Valley. That's where the original brewery is. And then in 2018, we opened our new destination brewery and production facility in Waitsfield, which is the next town north, right in the heart of Mad River Valley, home to 2 ski areas, Mad River Glen, Sugar Bush, a beautiful area of mountains in the Mad River, and lots of folks come and visit us up here. Not as many these days, but we're looking forward to having visitors back as things get safer out there.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that you're known for from the beers you guys produce is Sip of Sunshine. You've seen the yellow kind of cans out there. It's one of those, big IPAs that people love to try. And, we talk a little bit about, we're wearing our little Sip of Sunshine shirts here, and we talked about the beer here. Talk us a little bit about the process of creating little Sip of Sunshine, why you went down that path as a little sister, I guess you could say, to the big double IPA there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a long history, because it all started with our first home run beer, which is called Double Sunshine. Mm-hmm. And I was brewing that beer in Warren, Vermont on the 7 Barrel Brewery, and just couldn't make enough of it from the beginning. And that was back in the day, the early days, when I used to deliver all the beer myself out of the back of my car. I used to joke with folks. Well, I had we had a licensed wholesaler that was a separate company. I used to joke, and the only wholesaler in the country with 100% electric hybrid fleet, a fleet of one, that is, one Prius. And I would deliver it down to the Warren store in 22-ounce bottles, and we'd sell those beers out at the Waitsfield Farmers Market. I actually just stopped by the farmers market this morning, and several of the vendors were saying they missed having Lawson's there because we brought quite a crowd with us. And so that beer got so popular that people would drive from all over, not only the Northeast, but even farther. I remember a morning when I went down to deliver on Thursday morning to the Warren store, where there was a carload of folks who had driven overnight from Chicago to come and buy bottles at the Warren store. I could not believe the dedication to beer. That's really fantastic. So I was like, well, how can I, not quite ready to build a new brewery, young kids, not a lot of capital. How can I get a beer like this out to more people? I was saying no to folks all the time. So it was like people were calling, distributors are calling, retailers are calling, and I said, well, I only have so much to go around. We're just a 7 Barrel Brewery. 200 gallons a batch doesn't go very far. And so that was when Two Roads Brewery opened up. And in 2014, Sip of Sunshine was born down there at Two Roads in Stratford, Connecticut. And that was a way for me to produce beer, to get out to more folks. A beer that was kind of inspired by Double Sun, very similar, 8%, a forward, tropical, juicy, fruity double IPA or IPA. It straddles that line right at 8%. And so that became quickly our flagship beer. And over the last 6 years, been able to expand our distribution all over the Northeast. And what a thrill it's been. And so bringing us up to today, over the last year, we had this idea, well, you know, we're kind of missing something in that sunshine line. We've got we've got the Sip, we've got the Double Sunshine, which is double dry hopped and a little bit different than the Sip. And then we've got the Triple Sunshine at 10.5. And so we're like, you know, so many people say to me, I love Sip of Sunshine, but man, I can't do 8% in a 16-ounce serving, except for very rarely can you make something a little bit lower. And we started kicking around this idea of making a beer that would be just like Sip of Sunshine, but with less alcohol. And so our new beer that just released yesterday, officially here in Waitsfield, we dubbed it Little Sip. It's really almost the same exact recipe. We just dial back the malt and the hops proportionally to land it at 6.2%. Still features Citra hop. You know, it's a Citra party. It's all juicy and fruity, tropical fruits like mango, pineapple. I get a lot of grapefruit and pineapple myself. And what a reception it got. It sold like crazy yesterday. So we're really excited about this Little Sip beer that just hit the market. So that's kind of the story of how we hatched it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been planning it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the crazier thing about this is that, you know, I'm also in the same boat of what you were saying before. You know, Sip of Sunshine is an amazing beer, but you know, I got a young kid. I can't have more than a couple of them before, you know, you're really feeling it. So this beer is phenomenal. It tastes very similar to the Sip of Sunshine. So if you're a fan of that, this is definitely, you know, the same realm, but just less on the alcohol side. Great flavor across the board. So really excited that you guys introduced this as something you're going to make, as I think it's going to really kind of tear it up from that perspective. I had the chance actually to try your triple Sip of Sunshine at GABF last year. And, you know, if you had told me that it was a regular Sip of Sunshine, I almost would have believed you. You never know. It's like 10.5%, super smooth, very dangerously so, but it's an incredible series that you guys have been able to produce. So really hats off to you and your team for making a great beer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're hoping Little Sip really kind of fits a lot of active lifestyles out there. And so, you know, it's a great beer to throw in the backpack when you're going for a hike or at the end of a bike ride or take out on the golf course or to the beach or the pool. We're really hoping that at that 6% alcohol that it matches up with a lot of outdoor activities this summer.
Sounds good. You got two other beers here that also are new that you kind of released recently. You have we talked about the Super Session number 4, which you're drinking right now, but also another one, the Space in Between, the Passion Fruit, which is interesting kind of perception there. Talk us through this beer as a whole and how that came to be.
I'm getting used to this mirrored camera angle that I see it myself. I'm not sure. Do I go left or right? So there's
exactly.
the can. This went out to all 9 states that we distribute to. So we distribute throughout the Northeast, Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey, all of New England and all of New York. And this is a beer we've been making in Waitsfield. The Space in Between is the base beer. We called it the Space in Between because it kind of resides in that space in between styles. We call it an undefined ale. It's hazy. It's brewed with a fair proportion of wheat and oats, and it's dry hopped with Southern Hemisphere hops, but it's decidedly not an IPA. It's not really a pale ale, and we use a nice dose of acidulated malt to give it some tartness. And so it's a little bit tart, it's a little bit hazy, it's a little bit dry hopped. It really gives you that Southern Hemisphere terroir on the nose, and people have really been enjoying it. But we did a version with passion fruit last year for a wedding for our neighbors, just a little trial small batch of it, just 2 barrels of it. And it was such a hit that we decided that, you know what, we need to bring this beer to the people, the folks at the wedding. And then we had a couple logs extra. We put it on tap at our tap room, and it was on a Friday, and it was gone before Saturday was over. So
Awesome.
we were like, all right, this is a winner. Let's make a big run of it. And so that's gone out into distribution just recently, out into all 9 states. We use a Mexican passion fruit puree, so it's real fruit juice and puree that's added in, no other flavorings, and it ramps up the tartness nicely. Since we're talking about the beer, and I brought a couple of glasses, I'm just going to pour some in, so I can give you the tasting notes while we're chatting about it. So you can see it's got a nice amount of haze, but it's not completely opaque. The aroma is all what I get right off is the Southern Hemisphere hops. We use Galaxy from Australia. We use Nelson Sauvin from New Zealand, and that gives it a nice. It gives us this earthy and vinous character from the Nelson, and so you get the hops on the nose first, but then when you take a sip, the passion fruit is right up front there in the flavor. And because it's very acidic, the passion fruit's very acidic, it ramped up the tartness on the beer. So it comes in at a pH of 3.8. Most beers are in that 4.3 to 4.5 pH range. So it's really nicely tart. And I tell you, with the hot weather we've had over the last few weeks, this has been a very refreshing beer for hot days. And it comes in at 5% alcohol. So it's a nice refresher.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting way you put it, where the space between, there's been a lot of characterizations on different styles crossing over the border here, whether it's an IPA, whether it's a sour beer. So what would you really consider this if somebody picked this up in their local bottle shop? Is it more tasting like an IPA, or is it more tasting like a sour beer, or is there a mix between the two on that one?
It's kind of like it's somewhere between a hazy pale ale, but it's not hopped the way that today's juicy and hazy IPAs or pale ales are, and a really lightly kettle soured tart beer. It's kind of in between there, and people always ask, "Oh, that's it. You called it that after the Dave Matthews song?" And I'm like, "No, that's nothing to do with Dave Matthews. I'm a Fish fan," and that actually shows up in 2 of their songs.
There you go.
In the lines of 2 of their different songs. So, so it does have a musical connection as well.
Very cool. Well,
that's why we just called it Undefined Ale. We put that right on. We put it right on the label.
There you go. I like it. Undefined
hazy, dry hop, Undefined Ale. So
sounds good. So if you joined us a little late, we're talking with Sean Lawson, which is the owner and founder of Lawson's Liquid Finest Ales up in Vermont. And if you have a question for Sean, use the comments on your platform, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, where you're watching this, and we'll be able to kind of surface that stuff up to there. You talked about your distribution of 9 states there. We got a question here from Dan Huber in the comments here. He said, "Love to try your beers. Any chance of getting to Erie, Pennsylvania," which I believe is more western part. So what's the kind of goal, I guess, as you guys are moving a little bit further out from the big thing of 2 of roads? Is there any expansion potential plans for other states to be involved, or other parts of the state?
We don't have any plans for new states. We've been talking a lot about that actually the last year and a half since we announced that we were launching New Jersey last summer. I've been talking about that. Kind of rounds out sort of the Northeast for us, and that's a really comfortable home range. We can keep close tabs on the beer. It doesn't have to go very far. It goes from the brewery to the wholesaler on the same day. It's all within 4 or 5 hour drive of where the beer, 6 hour drive of where the beer needs to get to. And Pennsylvania, we're kind of slowly filling out Pennsylvania. We started right in Philly, the 5 counties around Philly. Then we added about a dozen counties last year. And just recently, our wholesaler asked about going as far out as Pittsburgh. So I imagine if the beer is getting to Pittsburgh, I'll get back to you, and we'll try to get some more information about PA out on our social media. But we are slowly expanding the territory in PA. I don't know if we'll make it to the whole state, but but we're trying. We're right now we're making as much sunshine as we can and getting it out there to all the states. So yeah, good question.
Then you heard it here first. There is hope. So, just wait and be patient, I guess. Another great question.
But if you're beyond the Northeast, if you're beyond the Northeast, I'm sorry to say no plans. But have your friends ship you some with a cold pack. Keep it cold. Keep it fresh.
Absolutely. You got another question here, specifically talking about distribution as well. What led you to brew at Two Roads rather than something a little closer to home? It's a good question, I think, to understand. Great. I know a lot about Two Roads and their facility there. Maybe you can explain a little bit why you picked them for using as an expansion platform.
Sure. There were several really important reasons. One is they had a brand new facility. When I first started considering contract brewing, looking around the Northeast, most of the places were legacy facilities, older regional breweries, and there were limitations to what you could do with your beer there in terms of the ingredients you could use, or the process, or their ability to dry hop beers the way that I do here in Vermont. And so, brand new brewery. A world-class brewmaster at the helm, and Phil Markowski, a great team of owners that are running the business, and then all brand new equipment. And then the clutch was that I could use my own ingredients. I could bring in all of our own ingredients, so I could produce something with the flavor profile that I was really aiming at and close to what we make here in Vermont. I could use my own yeast, so we brought in our own yeast to use on the beers at Two Roads, which both of those things you can't always do that at other contract facilities. You get kind of a set menu of ingredients to work with or to work from. And then lastly, and really importantly, one of the first things I asked for was, well, can I grab a sample of water and just do a basic water chemistry test? Because that's going to tell me a lot about the type of beers that we can brew here. And it was uncanny. It was unbelievable how close the water profile is in Stratford, Connecticut to Warren, Vermont. Very soft water, so low mineral content, low hardness, low residual alkalinity. That gives you that blank slate to brew beer with, and that was the kicker right there. And so, and I didn't really, so there wasn't really anything closer to home that was like Two Roads. Certainly there was no facility here in Vermont that had the capacity to do contract brewing at that time. And I wasn't quite ready. I had, two young kids at home, and we didn't quite have the ability to take on a big capital expansion, and I wasn't quite ready to have a bunch of employees too. So those are all the reasons why we ended up at Two Roads.
Yeah, we had Phil on the show a couple months ago, I believe, on talking about Two Roads, and like I said then, the facility there is top notch, brand new, like you mentioned back in 2014. It was you just started, and it's a huge facility. I think most people that you think about breweries that you visit, maybe in an industrial park, or there's kind of like a smart bottle system, but this is a huge facility. They have a big tap room that overlooks their entire brewing operations, huge tanks in there. So I remember being there when you guys kicked off the partnership there, and it's just a lot of excitement. I think like you mentioned before, people were clamoring for your beer all over the place, and this gave an opportunity to do this. And we even talked to Two Roads afterwards. Like, hey, people just want to have it on draft at Two Roads. Like, we don't do that. You sell it at the bottle shop. So it's great to see that kind of excitement for your brand out there when it comes to those things.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Yeah. So once again, if you have any questions for Sean, please make sure to use the comment boxes to kind of ask them away, and we'll try to get them up on the screen to put them on the hot seat. But speaking of the hot seat, we've been doing a lot of things that for these shows for lightning rounds. So I want to put Sean back on the hot seat here as we go to our speed round here, which is our new segment of the show here that we're going to ask some questions, and we'll put 60 seconds on the proverbial clock here. Let me load my phone for a second, and we'll get the timer on here, and then we'll ask you some questions. Sean, answer them as quickly as you can. You don't really have to go into any type of reason why, but we'll put the clock for 60 seconds here, and hold on 1 second. All right, and then we'll get started. So we'll put it on the clock here. All right, first question here. Alternate universe where beer doesn't exist. What would you drink?
Nice cocktail.
I like it. If you didn't pursue Lawson's Finest, what other passions would you pursue if it wasn't for brewing or anything of that nature?
I still wear my naturalist hat, so I'd be outside doing something in the natural world, and I still teach folks nature interpretation.
Nice. Next one we got. If you're stranded on an island, you can only have 3 beers in rotation. What beers would they be?
Oh, the old desert island question. Thank you for giving me 3 different choices. So it would definitely be a Pilsner, a double IPA, and something tart. So that'd be the space with fruit, Scrag Mountain Pilsner, and a double sunshine, or anything
Nice.
that's high quality, similar.
All right, we got time for one last question. Your favorite memory in the making of your brewery? I'll let you answer that one.
That one is I don't know if I could pick one, but one great example is when I got this letter from a young gentleman who detailed how he proposed to his wife at the top of a mountain and laid out the whole story, and it was paired with Sip of Sunshine, and I was just so honored that our beer would become part of such a special experience as getting engaged and married.
That's awesome. Yeah, it reminds me of a story that we had at our first ever Untapped Beer Festival, where we were actually on the Bank of America Stadium on the field for where the Carolina Panthers play, and there were people lining up on the 50-yard line to propose during the festival itself. So it really, I 100% understand what that means from a business perspective, where you have such a crazy amount of fans that love your product that want to bring it into their own life and make it more personal. So that's a really good story.
It's all about experiences,
Yes.
for me, and the fact that fans and people who love our beer connect it with an experience. It stays with them for their whole life, and I've heard so many of those similar stories, and it just brings a huge smile to my face that our beer could be part of a special experience for someone that's memorable.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we try to do at the tap room. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Exactly. No, it kind of leads to my next point here. You talk about the reopening of your tap room, obviously because of COVID being is what it is, and we talked a little bit before this about this on the pre-show here. Tell us what you're doing right now in terms of the reopening strategy for your particular tap room, and obviously what's going on within Vermont with COVID.
Sure. Well, Vermont's got very low number of cases for quite some time now, many weeks. However, we're a tourism destination, so folks travel here from all over. Certainly, we're seeing with summer an uptick in tourism here in Vermont, and so our tap room was closed for 3 months. But just a week ago, Monday, we, having the state had reopened restaurants for outside dining several weeks prior. And we decided that we had everything prepped and we were feeling ready to go with a whole new business model. So now we reopened our beer garden, limited capacity. So we're just doing 25 people at one time, outside only. The inside tap room is still closed, and Vermont requires that you have reservations or a way to call ahead and reserve a table. And so it's reservation only. And we had to adapt our business model, because it used to be you walk up to the bar and order and get the beer yourself, and you could order food and we'd give you a buzzer and then you go up to the kitchen window. So now it's full service. So our staff have been training and learning the full service model if they haven't done that before, but it's going pretty smoothly with low numbers. It's going pretty smoothly. It's going really great. And thank goodness we're not trying to open with outside dining only into January, right?
Yeah, yeah. People in the Northeast, it gets very cold up here. It'd be pretty horrible to do that in January, especially Vermont. And speaking about all the changes that are happening, obviously, I want to highlight some of the stuff that you guys have been doing. The world is a crazy place right now with the social justices that are happening here. Want to give you an opportunity to kind of explain some of the things that you guys are doing as a brewery to kind of show your support for these situations, especially around what's been happening within the country over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, first we started with trying to support, with COVID-19 healthcare workers with a big discount, and we did several special beers where all the proceeds went to Frontline Foods, is an organization that gets meals to hospitals and healthcare workers. We did one for shift meals, which is another free food and free meal program here in Vermont. And then with with the death of George Floyd and the outbreak of protests and people really stepping up to the mic and taking a risk, like with their own life, to protest racism and social injustice. We looked internally to say, well, what can we do as an organization? So one of the first steps was to have a conversation with our staff about, how can we be a better place? How can we be more welcoming? What do each of us need to think about that might need changing so that we either individually or as an organization don't contribute to systemic racism? And so we hosted a couple of facilitated listening sessions with an organization that does equity work called CQ Strategies. We've joined the Black is Beautiful project. So we're going to be brewing a stout beer. That's a project that Weathered Souls down in San Antonio started, and the Black is Beautiful project is an invitation for breweries to brew a stout. They can make it their own interpretation and to donate all the proceeds to an organization in their local area that is doing that is either fighting police brutality or doing social justice work or supporting equity among people. And so we're going to donate all the proceeds from that beer to the Vermont Peace and Justice Center. And we're certainly looking at other ways that we can. It doesn't end with one beer or a couple of social media posts. So we're looking ahead at the future of what are the other ways that we can help contribute to change in a positive and meaningful way. It's a tall order, and it's going to take all of us, contributing to make real change happen in this country.
Absolutely. We just announced on Friday from an Untapped perspective that we're partnering with Other Souls to do a dedicated badge on the platform for the Black is Beautiful campaign. So it's great to hear that you guys are being part of that. And, it's important to continue that message and not just check the boxes, for lack of a better word, and really make actionable change. So it's great to see you guys making those steps and being a leader in that space.
Thanks.
From that side. Let's put one more question up on the board here. This one's from Dan. He asks, do you have desire to brew any sour beers?
Well, this one, it's not quite a sour. It's pretty tart, but we've been doing ones. We've been doing some kettle sours out of our small batch brewery up in Warren. And we did a kettle sour recently called Summit Sour it was a Pink Boots project for International Women's Day, and we donated proceeds from that beer to the Pink Boots Society. So those are kettle sours. And then as far as mixed culture or spontaneous fermentation, we're not set up to do that right now. But it's something that definitely interests me. But we'll be doing more kettle sours in the future for sure. We did a beautiful Berliner Weiss, and we're working on a recipe for a Goza. So you'll see more of those beers for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan, for your question. Really appreciate it. Yeah. And also thank you, Sean, so much for being part of this discussion today. Had a lot of fun talking about some of my favorite beers.
Great to be here.
And once this whole COVID thing goes away, I'd love to come visit up and love you guys to visit up Vermont as well. Believe it or not, this is a crazy thing. I've never actually been to Vermont, and I live in the New England area, which is absolutely crazy in my perspective there. So we'll have to make that change once all this stuff lifts and enjoy a beer together. But Sean, thank you so much for being part of the platform. I want to give you an opportunity to say any last closing words. People can find your beer, any social media platforms you want to plug. We want to give you the floor from that perspective. Excellent. Well, Greg, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much again for the invitation. Folks can check us out on social media. All of our handles are at Lawson's Finest. Our website is lawsonsfinest.com. And if you're close enough and you're in a place where you can look on our website, there's a link to the tourism map that shows all the counties in the surrounding states that have less than 400 cases per million. And all of those folks are invited freely to come to Vermont. And other areas, you're supposed to self-quarantine, but you can come to Vermont and get this beautiful new beer called Little Sip. And you got the pilot batch. I did, those silver cans, and these
blue cans just came out the other day, or if you're within striking distance here in Vermont and you want to come visit our beer garden, you can make reservations just by going to our website again at lawsonsfinest.com. But it's a thrill to be here to share a few beers with you, and thanks for the platform. Untapped is a really awesome place for beer lovers. I've been impressed with how much love we've gotten on Untapped in the recent couple of years. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, Greg. Thank you again.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you so much for the rest of your afternoon, and I appreciate you coming on.
For sure.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I just want to give you a few updates on the schedule of what's happening. Obviously, in the U.S. here, we have a holiday on next weekend. So our next show is going to be on Tuesday, another virtual happy hour with Bob Olson, who is the head brewer and founder, one of the founders of Blower Snort in New Jersey. He makes a lot of crazy beers, specifically with things like Fruity Pebbles, cake. We're going to talk a lot of things about that. Make sure you tune in at 7 p.m. next Tuesday. And then after that, we'll have some more information about what's happening. But the following Saturday in July, after July 4th, we'll be talking with Brewer Omegang, talk to them about a little bit about what they're doing up in Cooperstown, New York, and a little bit about their process there. So tune in then. But check out untapped.tv for all the information on where to find our shows. You can replay old ones. In addition to that, we're also having the audio versions of these shown up on any podcast you'd like to listen to. So Spotify, Google, or Apple, or you name it, we're there. So you can check out the audio versions that are posted shortly after the video is completed. Thank you so much for watching this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And make sure you check in all your beers at Untapped at home. Tell us you're safe. And cheers, everybody. As I've got an empty glass here. But have a good one. We'll see you next time. Cheers.